Hola, hoy vamos a hablar del presente del subjuntivo. ¿Qué es y cómo lo usamos? It is incredibly important that you both listen to and watch the notes, write down all of the information, and ask questions if there's something about which you're uncertain to make sure that you have everything you need to help you be successful with this new piece of grammar. So the first thing you need to be aware of course, is ¿qué es el subjuntivo? What is it? So up to now in your Spanish language learning, you've been focusing, as far as grammar goes, on a lot of tenses. Okay, so verb tenses, the present, the past, the future you'll be learning shortly, okay? But you may not be aware that there are also three different moods of verbs. The indicative is actually the tense that you've been using since you started Spanish in either your freshman year of high school or at some point in time in middle school, or potentially even before that. So the indicative is used that's something that's a statement of fact, fact being in quotation marks, because, of course, what is a fact to one person may or may not be a fact to another in some cases, depending on that individual's perspective. And you already know el pretérito, el presente, el imperfecto, present perfect you'll actually be learning soon. So you'll be learning that very shortly, probably towards the end of this month. El futuro and things along those lines. Que el condicional, potentially as well. See, okay. El imperativo is something you did a little bit with informal commands in Spanish too, and that you're doing a lot more now as well with the formal and plural commands. The imperativo, or imperative tense, is commands, see? And the subjunctive is a completely different verb mood. And for now, we're really kind of limiting its use a bit, so you get used to it, how to form it, the basics of how to use it. And then things will get more complex, likely in early May at some point in time. And we'll give you like kind of the rest of the nitty-gritty of the subjunctive. And this is something that will feature heavily as well in Spanish 4. It is going to remain. It is not going to go away, okay? For now, we use it with impersonal expressions, and these are things like it's important that, it's necessary that, etc. And an expression means that means ojalá que. Ojalá que actually comes from Arabic. It really translates to a form of O Allah, or O God. When I'm looking for it in class, you'll really have me writing down I really hope, or saying I really hope, to indicate that in a translation type of situation or in a listening type type of situation, that's what I want you to use, okay? So now let's get back down more to this, okay? First thing you need to know is cómo lo formamos, okay? So the rules here are actually pretty similar to the way that you form mandatos formales y mandatos plurales. The only difference is you keep that flipped ending using the ER endings for AR verbs and the AR endings for ER and IR verbs all the way throughout the conjugation. So for la forma yo en el presente, you start with that. Vas a quitar la O, so you get rid of the O, and then you're going to add es, hemos, es, y en. So at the top of página 2, what you should do is write down for the first two bullet points the yo form of the verb examinar for the example there. And then the second bullet point, examin, without the O. And then for an example, write down the conjugation of examinar en el presente del subjuntivo. So you note we have those flipped endings. Examine, examines, examine, examinemos, examinéis, y examinen. Para los verbos ER y los verbos IR, same type of thing. Yo form of the verb in the present, quita la O, get rid of the O, and you're going to add the AR endings. So vas a añadir a, as, a, amos, ais, y an. You have an example here with the verb sufrir. So once again, at the bottom of página 2, for the first bullet point, write down sufro. The second bullet point, write down sufro without the O, so you've got that ending. And you have sufra, sufras, sufra, suframos, sufrais, y sufran. Okay, guess what? Now you've got the basics of how to conjugate verbs in the subjunctive and the present subjunctive. Let's make things a little more complicated because we know you can manage it. See, you can handle this. You've got this. See? You already know the basic steps because you've been doing them for a little while with the formal and plural commands. A couple of other things you need to know starting on página 3, okay? Verbos con cambio de raíz en el presente, so stem changes in the present, keep their stem change except for nosotros and vosotros forms. However, there's a bit more of an additional difference with verbos IR verbs with stem change in the present. They do have an extra stem change in the nosotros and vosotros forms in the subjunctive. So the nosotros and vosotros forms go from E a I and from O a U. So you'll notice that the two verbs I chose for the examples, preferir and dormir, are both IR verbs because they have that extra stem change, and I wanted you to be able to see what that extra stem change looks like in the context of a whole conjugation. So for preferir, you have prefiera, prefieras, prefiera, prefiramos, prefiráis, and prefieran. For dormir, you have duerma, duermas, duerma, durmamos, durmais, y duerman. And this is something that, of course, will take a little bit of getting used to. There will likely be a decent amount of trial and error, but you will get it, okay? And remember that all verbs keep their regular stem changes. It's just that those verbs with IR endings have a little extra wonkiness in the subjunctive here. See? Okay? So, verbos con cambio de ortografía. Ay, ay, ay. So, spelling change verbs, okay? There are verbs that have spelling changes, and they're very similar to the ones you see in the yo form of the preterite. The big difference being that in the subjunctive, we use them for each conjugation. So this is something, once again, that with a couple of these conjugations you've already seen in the command form. So for diagnosticar, the car changes to que, as you can see in the conjugations. Diagnostique, diagnostiques, diagnostique, diagnostiquemos, it's a nice 6-syllable word there, diagnostiques, and diagnostiquen. For llegar, we have that GAR to GUE that you've seen previously. Llegue, llegues, llegue. Lleguemos, llegues, y lleguen. Y para comenzar, keep in mind this is an AR verb with a stem changer, so you'll also have the opportunity to notice that you do not have that extra stem change in the nosotros and vosotros form. You have comience, comiences, comience, comencemos, comencéis, y comiencen. So that ZAR does change to a CE, and it sticks throughout, okay? 5 completely irregular verbs that you really need to know are on Página 4. They are pre-conjugated for you to use as your reference. You do need to make sure that you have this information, so that you want to make sure that you're aware that dar, estar, ir, saber, y ser are completely irregular. And once again, you've seen some of these forms already as commands, okay? So you actually know a bit more about this than you might think from the beginning. Now, let's get down to the really kind of more interesting part of the rules, and it's something, once again, that you will need practice with. It will take practice, and like I said, we're keeping it to the basics right now, and it will get more complex fairly quickly, and it's likely that I'll give you a couple of additional expressions before we start the unit project as well, just to make sure that you've got a good idea of how to say, what you want to say, especially when it comes to using the subjunctive, okay? So first things you need to know, okay, about como y cuando y como, when and how do we use it. La oración va a tener dos cláusulas. So the sentence is going to have 2 separate clauses, and they're going to be separated by the word que. So you're going to see the word que between the clauses, okay? Be aware the word que in the sense means that. It is used, once again, to separate those 2 clauses. And you also need to be aware that las cláusulas van a tener sujetos diferentes. So the clauses are going to have different subjects. So those are things I'll point out as I go through the examples, okay? And we're also going to discuss quickly the things that you need to know, okay? So, impersonal expressions, if you take a look at Página 5, before you write down these examples here, if you look at Página 5 of the note packet, you need to be aware that if you see one of the expressions that's listed in the first clause, so before the word, well, you see the que there, but one of these expressions at the first part of a sentence, you need to use the subjunctive in the second clause. You'll notice we have es bueno, que es malo, que es importante, que, etc., etc., etc. If you have questions about the meanings of any of these sayings and or cannot find them easily on word reference, please make sure that you double check with me and let me know that you have questions about them, okay? The subject of the first clause of each of these sentences is it. So the second sentence is, of course, going to be the second clause is going to have something a little different. So for the examples here, just so you're aware, we have es necesario que tú prestes atención. It is necessary that you pay attention. So you'll notice the subject of the first clause is it. You have that word que in the middle, and the subject of the second clause is tu. Therefore, you have two different subjects, and the subjunctive is required. For your second sentence with the subjunctive, with the impersonal expressions, we have es importante que ustedes tengan un chequeo médico cada año. It is important that you all have a physical, an annual exam every year. Okay? Once again, subject of the first clause is it. You've got the word que to separate the two clauses. And the subject of the second clause is ustedes, you all. Okay? And then ojalá, as I mentioned earlier on, is the other thing we'd be using right now with the subjunctive. Okay, so ojalá. Once again, goes back to the o Allah. It does come from Arabic. There are several words and expressions that have, in Spanish, that have strong Arabic influence due to the fact that, of course, there was a strong Muslim presence in Spain for several centuries, quite a long time ago, and especially in the south of Spain, there's still a very strong Muslim influence. But it really means I hope to God. Once again, I translate it as I really hope, or if I say it out loud, it might also be I really, 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 you get the idea, hope, okay? So what we have here is ojalá que todos estén bien. I hope that everyone is well, or I hope that you all are well, depending on how you translate it, but that everyone is well. So once again, you have that ojalá is the I really hope, que separating the two clauses, and todos meaning everyone as the second clause. Be aware that you will have plenty of time to practice with this, and it is something that does take some time to get used to, but it is not going away. Just like the preterite and the imperfect, it kind of sticks around, and you'll get more practice with it and get more comfortable as time goes on. Please make sure you check in with me if there's something about which you're uncertain or have any questions. Gracias.